You can. Good evening. I'd like to call the regular city commission meeting of Tuesday, July 21st, 2026 to order and ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Steinhardt.
Present.
Commissioner Rozell.
Present.
Commissioner Olsman.
Present.
Commissioner Elder.
Present.
Mayor Paul present. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't believe we have any communications. Do we have any elected officials in the room? I don't see any. So no proclamations. We'll move on to public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to address the city commission for an item that is not on the agenda. I know people signed in, and we will give everyone, even if they didn't sign in, an opportunity to speak if they wish. But I'm going to have Heidi call off the names.
First up is Kathleen Erickson.
Do I need to give my address too if it's, okay, all right. Hello, welcome. My name is Kathleen Erickson, and I wanted to formally introduce a neighborhood group that has a new name and a new mission statement. I have printed copies of the mission statement to share with you afterward, but because it seemed that there had been some miscommunication about what our group does, I wanted to read it out loud. It was formerly known as the Huntington Woods Citizens for Ceasefire. It is now the Huntington Woods Neighbors for Justice in Palestine. Every member is a Huntington Woods resident. We're building a network of family, friends, and neighbors in Huntington Woods, Michigan, and surrounding communities to raise awareness of the injustices faced by the Palestinian people while uplifting their dignity and resistance. We are committed to hosting safe, caring, and challenging conversations and activities which can strengthen all our humanity. We seek to hold our local, state, and federal governments accountable under U.S. law, human rights laws, international law, in matters affecting the Palestinian people. This includes stopping all military aid to Israel, ending ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, lifting siege and starvation imposed by Israel on Palestinians, ending the occupation, and securing the release of all Palestinian prisoners. We unequivocally oppose all forms of anti-Semitism, which is defined as hostility, prejudice, or discrimination toward Jews, not to be conflated with legitimate criticism of the state of Israel. We aim to foster an environment that respects and uplifts free expression for all, where pro-Palestinian perspectives and voices of individuals of Arab descent can be shared openly without fear of intimidation. Thank you. I have printed copies and a copies for anyone here who would be interested.
Thank you.
I'll take a copy.
Thank you. case anyone would like them on their way out.
Next is Lori Lisi.
Hi, good evening. Since the cat's out of the bag about the possibility of repealing the prohibition on conversion therapy, I thought I would talk about that tonight before you guys consider it. Consideration of repealing the prohibition on conversion therapy is the latest issue requiring the city to balance civil rights against possible negative consequences, in this case litigation. I know that we all hold many of the same values and that you have no desire to repeal the prohibition, but have been advised it would be prudent. I believe the Commission has too often sacrificed protection of civil rights in favor of avoiding a hypothetical lawsuit. Since late 2024, when I started to regularly come to these meetings, the Commission has faced efforts to prohibit political speech in city spaces, concerns about public safety contacting CBP, anger over parade speech restrictions, and now the possibility of repealing protections for LGBTQ members of our community. Except for keeping room rental policies subject matter neutral, the city has, upon advice of the city attorney, opted to avoid hypothetical litigation or possible resident conflict rather than protecting civil liberties. At Commission meetings, there has been little or no exploration of the expertise or thoroughness of this advice. Granted, my view from here is limited. I don't know what instructions are provided to the city attorney or what discussion happens between the city manager and the city attorney. Despite the Open Meetings Act, I have no idea what discussions occur, if any, among commissioners before voting on some of these controversial topics. I still have no idea what prompted the change to parade rules. It was apparently handled completely by staff. Fairly or unfairly, I want my city to be a bulwark between residents and harmful federal policies. I want constitutional protections prioritized over fears of hypothetical litigation. Avoiding litigation is not your only charge. Your oath binds you to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan. Thank you.
Next is Chris Wolembowski.
Later on, I was going to talk about something else.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so, all right, perfect. Lauren Horsch.
Good evening. My name's Lauren Hirsch. I am a homeowner and resident of the city of Huntington Woods for 30 years. I'm your former Burton PTA president. I'm a lawyer, I'm an athlete, I'm a mother. I've raised 3 kids in this neighborhood, and most importantly, I'm your constituent. So Huntington Woods is a community that loves and supports its kids. As an example, back in July of 2019, 2 of my children, Sophie and Gabriella, were honored with a city proclamation and a letter that proudly hangs in a rogues gallery in my kitchen. A letter from this city commission commemorating them for their performance at the USA Fencing Summer National Championship Tournament. Letter signed by Bob Paul, Jeff Jenks, Jules Olsman, Joe Roselle, and Michelle Elder, if that takes you back a little bit. I bring this up because Sophie, my youngest child, Sophie's the child's dead name. Sophie, as a teenager, struggled with his identity. We supported Sophie, in his journey to find himself, which unfortunately that journey, as is not so uncommon with those going through the process, had its moments that were life-threatening. So the child, with our support, persevered, found himself, Sophie is now Bobby. Bobby graduated from Berkeley High School, went on to become an athlete at Wayne State University. In fact, Bobby, as an active member of Wayne State University's NCAA fencing team, was Wayne State's first trans athlete. He transitioned between his freshman and sophomore years of college. And as a member of the fencing team, he has entered the 100 Wins Club. Are you any less proud of this child of the city now than you were back in 2019? I've got a dog in this fight, so to speak. Protecting our kids from hokum, from harmful crackpot so-called therapy is important. It makes the difference between life and death for these kids. Is that my time?
That's all right, continue on.
Thank you. This city and its constituents put that ban into place because we care about our kids and we want to protect them. You know, we've heard about the more esoteric legal considerations and cautions that this commission has to consider, but rubber meets the road with kids' lives. Squashing them into a binary pigeonhole that is the process of the conversion therapy doesn't save lives. It puts them even more greatly at risk. I request, number one, that this commission continue to support the ban. Number two, I don't know what was behind this even making it onto the agenda and it's being pulled out, but I would kindly request that this commission issue a statement and/or a report explaining what's the process behind this, why is it even being brought to consideration, who's behind it? Is it coming from the constituents, or is it just on recommendation from your city attorney? This is my request, and please continue to support all of the kids in this community. Thank you.
Howard Mora.
Good evening. Thank you from our family and other residents for your efforts to help return our July 4th parade to the family event that it is really meant to be. We know the parade is intended to celebrate our great city and the July 4th holiday. Unfortunately, certain city residents continue to unilaterally attempt to turn this great family-oriented celebration into a protest. This was witnessed firsthand last year, and despite the acknowledgement of city guidelines this year, these same residents deliberately, once again, attempted to co-opt our city's parade to suit the specific individual political motivations of a vocal and demonstrative few. It is really shameful that a few city residents simply cannot set aside their personal political views for 1.5 hours on July 4th, and that they refuse to be respectful neighbors so that our city can enjoy a family-oriented celebration. These residents are grossly confused regarding the difference between a parade and a protest. A quick AI search is really quite clear. A parade is a public procession of people, vehicles, floats, moving together down a street, typically to celebrate a holiday or a special event. A protest is a public procession of people, is a public expression of objection, disapproval, or dissent towards a specific idea, policy, or action. There is no commonality between a protest or a parade. All citizens should have the right to make a simple choice for themselves and their families. Do I want to go to a parade? Do I want to support a protest? At no point should one be compelled by the deliberate actions of a group of self-righteous individuals to witness a protest if they choose not to. While the First Amendment grants freedom of speech, those rights are not absolute, unconditional, and without consideration of the rights of other citizens. Unfortunately, certain city residents do not care about maintaining the congeniality of our community that is actually so cherished, along with respecting the family-centric nature of the 4th of July parade. These residents project an attitude of blatant disregard of the rules, maintain a belief in the superiority of their rights, while subjugating our rights as citizens and city rules to second-class status at best. How can someone be allowed to use the parade route for political purposes, the very streets blocked off by the city for the parade? We had questions from children, for example, as why people had their mouths taped shut, why some people carried various signs, the meaning of images of children on signs. Huntington Woods Peace Group Facebook posts and press comments punctuates the lack of regard for and continuing intent to be a provocative, disruptive force in our community. Should these residents wish to protest, they certainly can in a time, place, and manner that is appropriate. Our city's 4th of July parade is just that, a family community parade event. It is not a protest. Thank you for your ongoing efforts to keep our city a safe, welcoming, and family-centric place for all of us. We hope our city council and leadership will continue to be vigilant in keeping our community events rooted in the best interests of our entire city. Thank you very much.
Adam
Janky.
Jenke.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm a Huntington Woods resident and parent, and I'm also here to speak about the 4th of July parade. First, I just want to say thank you. I believe the content-neutral parade rules the city adopted this year were exactly right. Our 4th of July parade is one of those few occasions each year when neighbors of every faith, background, and political belief come together to celebrate our country and our community. In today's world, that kind of shared experience is increasingly rare, and it's worth protecting. Unfortunately, those rules were very intentionally violated. We all saw it with our own two eyes. It was not a misunderstanding. It was not one individual exercising bad judgment. It was a planned, selfish, organized decision by a group of citizens of our city who actually brought in outside agitators as well, with the selfish motive to prioritize their own political message above the experience of families who simply came to celebrate the 4th of July. I want to tell you what that meant for my family, standing at the corner of Hendry and Nadine. My elementary school age children came to the parade excited to see their friends on the swim club, their friends in the fruit group, all that. Instead, they were subject to derogatory statements about the Jewish homeland. They asked me, why does the city they live in hate Israel? Instead of celebrating our community and country, I had to attempt to explain to my kids that, no, it's not the city of Huntington Woods that hates Israel and is accusing them of genocide. It's this fringe group within it. To which my son responded, but then why is the city having them march in the parade? The Peace Group has every right to their views, as asinine, radical, and morally bankrupt that I might find them. They can speak at commission meetings, they can write letters to newspapers, they can organize their No King rallies, but there's a time, place, and manner for their advocacy, and ruining a century-old parade is neither the time nor the place for it. Rules only matter if they are enforced. If intentional violations have no consequences, then the rules become mere suggestions, and next year's parade will be governed not by the city's standards, but rather by whichever group is most willing to ignore them. I respectfully ask the Commission to enforce the rules it adopted. At a minimum, organizations and individuals who intentionally violate the rules should not be permitted to participate next year in the parade, not because of the viewpoint they expressed, but because they knowingly refused to follow rules that applied equally to everyone. Thank you.
Scott Beard.
I am here to talk about the reversal of the ban in conversion therapy. Obviously, you can tell I'm one of the LGBTQ members of this community. My husband and I have owned our house on Talbot. We've raised 2 beautiful children here who've gone through the school systems. I don't know if any of you are familiar with conversion therapy, but I am. Personally, it destroys people. It hurts people. That can't happen to our children here. I'm not going to let it. And neither will the Human Rights Campaign. There will be a lot of people here to discuss this and to be very unhappy. This hurts children for the rest of their lives. I'm sorry, I have laryngitis, so I'm doing my best I can to talk. Also, I'm very passionate. I've had people I know that have killed themselves because of this therapy. And this can't happen here. This was supposed to be a very welcoming, kind place. And I don't know what's happening anymore. We're becoming more divisive. We are not caring about each other at all. I don't want to perpetuate that onto our children and have our children grow up with trauma that they'll be in therapy for the rest of their lives if they survive it. So, I don't know how this came about, who brought this up, what asinine person thought this was a great idea, but they're idiots. It's debunked science. How would you gentlemen feel if someone attacked electrodes to your private parts and you were electrocuted every time you got an erection to a woman? I don't think you would like that for you or for your children. That's what some of this therapy is. It's wrong, it's not science, and it's not going to happen here. Thank you.
We have Jody, is it Kraskow?
I didn't put my name down to speak.
I'm sorry?
No, I didn't put my name down to speak.
Oh, your name is here, right? No? Okay. Is it 8164
Yeah,
Henry?
okay, and I did the same thing with Jody, I just was signing in to be here.
Okay. Jackie Friedman?
Hello, I'm Jackie. I live in Huntington Woods. I have been a resident here for 23 years, along with my son, who was born here, who is now 18 years old. I would like to thank the City Council for keeping the community of Huntington Woods safe for children and families like mine, and for focusing on policies and services that benefit all the residents of Huntington Woods. We appreciate the parade policy that was created with that in mind. However, our wonderful Huntington Woods 4th of July parade, which was supposed to be a celebration of the 250th birthday of our great country, became a political protest and a political campaign event. Instead of bringing the community together to celebrate the birth of the USA, it was divisive and caused discord within the community. Local parades supported by our community should focus on local issues that impact the community. I was very surprised and upset to see members of the Huntington Woods, now called Peace, Citizenship, and Education Project participants, parading with tape over their mouths while children were looking on. There were also participants wearing clothing in support of political candidates running for office. I have pictures of a person walking in the parade wearing campaign gear, holding a sign about a war in a foreign country. The same said person was knocking on my door campaigning. It was disappointing that the Huntington Woods Peace, Citizenship, and Education Project participants knowingly and in an arrogant way violated the new parade rules the city put in place. Thank you again for your steadfast support in keeping the Huntington Woods 4th of July parade as family-friendly and as positive as possible. We look forward to having events like these in the future that remain focused on our community and bringing the whole community together. Please let us know how we can help.
Susan Considine?
Okay, it's a little change of subject, voters here. So I'll be here 27 years this fall, and I'm guessing like most other residents, when past bonds came up, I thought, well, I love my city, I want to maintain it, I'll vote yes. And then I'd write my 2 property checks, tax checks a year, and just never wonder where's the money going, or is it getting the results. So, but because we've had 5 bond millages in the last 10 years, leveraged about every 2 years, and all these other line items, I decided I wanted to be more informed. So I've gone to the city commission meetings. I attended the one and only town hall you've had on the proposal, and I think less than 10 people showed up. I went to 2 Q&As that our finance director and DPW director graciously came to a citizens group that wasn't broadcast to the public. I read all the information I could on the city website. I sent emails to the city. I rewatched all the commission meetings on the bond, and I finally went to City Hall last Friday just to ask for a few questions that I wasn't still getting. And despite being 11 business days away from the election, I was told I had to FOIA it. And if anybody FOIAs the city, you'll know that the city clerk always takes the full extension, so that's like 15 days. So I knew I wasn't going to get it. I was feeling a little dejected, and then the city e-blast came out, and I saw that you had the cartoon contest for the bond, and I thought, well, why should the kids have all the fun? So I created like a treasure map, a treasure hunt of data. Maybe we could crowdsource the data since I wasn't getting successful getting it. And so if you look at that chart that I made, you know, when I go out and talk to people, they want to know, well, we've already had over $21 million in bond millages for roads and sewers. And what did we, how many linear feet? I found you got to talk in terms of linear feet if you want to get down to the granular data. How many have we accomplished with all of that? Because now we're asking for 15 million. I took off the Parks and Rec. It really should be decoupled from roads, I think. So how much are we going to accomplish? And I've been trying to ask, the one thing that's really hard to get a hold of is, what does NOAC and Frost maintain for us? And if you look at the second sheet, I actually went through it and put in all the roads that are targeted. And I keep hearing it's tentative, it's subject to change. I get that. But we should have like a basic number of linear feet that we're expecting to accomplish. And it should have been counted and then calculated by, you know, one of the questions I'm asking you is, what else is baked in to besides the asphalt? You know we have to pay bond attorneys, bond advisors, city attorneys, city engineers, the bond debt, the bond interest, and we don't know what other, like Huntington Woods DPW employees are involved. And I just happened to learn when I watched one of the meetings that the bond that we voted for the police, for their police pensions, that was to free up money from the operating fund to fix roads to the tune of $500,000 a year. So I mean, are you reporting to us how much of that $500,000 is being used? I'd like to know that. And then again, when I'm asking what kind of data do you keep, because obviously you can tell with my chart, I'm a data person. You know, I've asked DPW, what kind of charts are, you know, is this an Excel spreadsheet, something, so you can just plug and play numbers? And Kevin brought this map to us, and he said, sorry, the numbers are small. And so when I was home, I did get out my magnifying glass because I was trying to figure out what street I was on. And then I see he's operating from a 1928 map. So I know he's a very earnest, hard-working, dedicated employee. This isn't a criticism of him. It's a question of what are we paying NOAC and Frost for? They billed over $21,000 just in bond proposal assistance. So that's like 130 hours worth of work at the highest level of engineer. So what did they do? And also because we've heard from Commissioner Roselle many times that when one bond falls off, we'll need another. Because if you look at the chart, I think the information to taxpayers is misleading, that 25% of our roads need fixing. Because when I did my best calculation trying to piece stuff together in Google Maps, this bond for $15 million is only going to fix about 8.3% of the roads. So that leaves a lot. That means we know there's more bonds coming. So I would like to see a better projection of it, a better life cycle of it. And I also don't like coming to City Hall and being told I can't ask any more questions, and if I don't leave, public safety will be called. And I was willing to wait because I'm real curious if asking questions is a civil infraction, a misdemeanor, or a felony. So my whole thing is, I heard too, I learned from watching it with the bond people, that if we can get enough people to vote no, you can still get it on the ballot for November. So I'd also like to encourage you to go back. Commissioner Steinhardt was the only one who asked, how many roads are we actually going to get fixed? And I would encourage you to go back and listen to it. I can tell you the minute marker about how many roads are going to get fixed and see if you can get an answer. But also go back and listen to all your commitments about how you're going to keep the the residents informed about the bond and where the money's going, and so I just don't think there's enough out there. So when I talk to people, there's a lot of people some people who've already voted, which, by the way, you can spoil your ballot if you want and re-vote. I just don't think we have enough information to be informed voters about this bond. We all want, I'm happy to spend money, but I want to know where the money's going. Like I'm telling people, you know, if you tell your kid says, can I have a car? Sure, you can have a car, here's my credit card. And then they either go out and buy some wild car or they buy a crappy car and they spent the money somewhere else. I don't know, I just don't know how you're spending the money, and we still don't know. You know, that's why I put down the different types. You can either replace the sewer line or line it. You can replace a line. I just don't even know what we're getting fixed. So I don't want to vote for a big bundle when we don't have a better prediction. So I'm encouraging people, vote no. It can still make it on the ballot in November, and we can give people a little more time. And I'd like to call Noack and Frous to task, and I know I've emailed a couple of you. I've read the contract, I FOIA'd that one, it took a long time to get it. But their records that they create, their reports and everything, is the property of the city. So we should get it. Okay, thank you. You let
That's all.
Is that it?
I'm the last.
And anyone else with public comment? Seeing none, public participation is closed. And we will move on to the regular items of business. Item number 1 is a matter of considering directing the Huntington Woods, or having the commission direct the Huntington Woods Planning Commission to review and recommend changes on the city sign ordinance. This comes, just so people know, out of some signs that have been popping up and creating problems for visibility and safety. And so do we have a motion to ask to refer this to the Planning Commission?
So moved. Second.
Any other comments on that, Andrew?
No, well, in regards to the signs, they just wanted to make sure that they look at it. I don't think it's indicated in there in regards to the square footage the sign can be. We don't want, obviously, billboards on properties, and they'll look at all those different things. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I just add as some issues were popping up, Hank and I were looking through the sign ordinance, saw a few things needed some tweaks, and it's been a little while since the last amendment, and not that there was anything particularly wrong with the last amendment, but the sign ordinance law changes very frequently, so it's just going to be a matter of doing a few updates and clarifications, not a huge overhaul.
And this just has to do with size. This is not a content issue.
Right,
This
yeah.
is just how many square feet you can have it.
Exactly, size, location, number, et cetera.
Any public comment?
Hi, Lori Lisi again. I just want to clarify, so political signs can still stay up for ever and ever?
Mayor, if you want me to. Yeah, and that is one of the things that we will be addressing in the sign ordinance, because political signs is regulating them any differently from other types of temporary signs is a content-based restriction. I mean, theoretically, the reality is, yes, they can sit up for forever.
Thank you.
So.
Robert Lebo, 10535 LaSalle Boulevard. Some of my neighbors still consider me a newbie after 45 years in the same house. I believe the sign ordinance limits us now to 5 square feet or something close to that. There are contractors in the city who are putting up massive banners. There was one on LaSalle Boulevard that was 30 feet long and 4 feet tall. There's now one on, I believe, Nadine, near Hendry, perhaps, that is at least 40 feet long and 4 feet tall. That's about 160 square feet. These are not good for the city environment. Massive signs promoting new construction diminishes the value of every older structure in the city. These are contractors who are saying, look at this glamorous new product we're putting up. Here's our big promotional sign. You should do it too. This small sign that's allowed today, 5 square feet, I think, is wonderful. It gives ample space for a contractor's name, links to telephone, email, and it's discreet, it's quiet. It's how this community used to be. Not show-offy and not self-promotional to such a degree that if you're driving down Woodward, you can see it. So I'm all for maintaining small sign sizes. If it needs to be enlarged, a square foot perhaps additionally, but that's it. Keep things quiet and simple. Thank you.
Chris Gombieski, I'm also the chair of the Planning Commission. We'll be happy to take this up. And thank you.
Any others? Okay, any comments or questions from the commission? All
No,
those
but yes, not a, sort of a half comment with regard to what Mr. Lebo just pointed out. The comments that Mr. Lebo made are accurate, and that's one of the problems, which is why this has to be, for the city to have any kind of enforcement capability, there has to be an ordinance that you're working off of, and like Matt said, the last time it was done a long time ago, and, the old, if you give someone an inch, they take a mile, and so if what we're seeing now obviously warrants review and warrants change, and that's precisely the purpose of it, is that, everybody, if somebody's doing work on a house, I mean, God knows anybody that's worked with a contractor has had a sign out there way before the job started, and it seems like too long after, and, they're, I guess, if they want to advertise who they are, and like Mr. Lebo said, have their name and address, fine, but where it's becoming something beyond that, I think warrants consideration. And again, you got to be careful with these kinds of ordinances, because whoever you're telling it's too big is going to say, well, what they'll say, well, I have a right. What you're going to hear. So it requires some careful work, but I fully support the need to take a look at this and to assure that we aren't getting billboards on front lawns.
Mr. Mayor, I would just add on to what Commissioner Olsman said, and that is too that, we've gotten some complaints recently about placement too close to intersections so that residents can't see if traffic is oncoming before they pull out into the intersection. And so that's really what is driving this, is that, the clear vision triangle that we have to attempt to maintain so that people aren't running into each other in intersections is a critical element of this. And so I'm hoping that that's what the Planning Commission and our city attorney will be addressing. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to encourage the city administration to educate the community about the sign ordinance as it's in its future state. We see signs, whether they're vendors or they're political signs, in the right of way all the time. And I know we have a limited code enforcement hours, but I think it's also important for our residents to know and understand the ordinances that govern the city. And so I think that it would really benefit us to have regular, frequent reminders to folks as to what the sign ordinance is. And for our residents to understand that they're certainly welcome to, if they see a code violation, they're certainly welcome to call City Hall and let folks know, since, again, we do have limited code enforcement coverage.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for taking this up. All right, item number 2 is first reading of an ordinance adopting an amendment to Chapter 40, zoning, Article 2, regarding short-term rentals. Planning Commission had a public hearing on this and has recommended unanimously that the City Commission adopt this ordinance. We're basically allowing or not allowing short-term rentals in the R1 district and restricting them to the R2 transitional district. Anything else I need to add to that?
Unless you have any questions.
Do we, okay, do we have a
Pretty much
motion?
it.
So moved. Seconded.
Start with any public comment?
Just Kathleen Erickson, a question, clarification. What is R1 and R2? I read that in the ordinance.
Who's gonna be, the residential, like, single-family home districts. So the only place they'd be permitted is the transitional district, or as a special land use, which is kind of the transition between residential and commercial.
And is that along Woodward?
Basically, that's along Woodward,
Right.
11 Mile,
Mhm,
and some of
exactly.
Coolidge.
Mhm.
Any others?
Was there a number of days on
30 days. Less than 30 days is considered short term.
Mr. Mayor?
Any comments or questions from the commission?
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, is there any way we can just, rather than forego a first reading and second reading, this has already been vetted by the planning commission, is there any particular reason why we can't just enact this tonight? I've read the newspaper, I saw what happened in Birmingham, I saw what happened in other communities where people rent houses, they become overrun, there's gunfire, the streets become blocked, people get injured. I mean, this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem where it seems it's happening several times a month, both inside this county and outside this county. So why would we prolong this and go through a first reading and a second reading when it's already been vetted by the planning commission? We've already discussed it as a commission once before at a prior meeting. Why not just use the ability within our code of ordinances to enact it this evening?
Yeah, the issue is that this is a zoning ordinance, so I would be concerned about that.
Mr. Mayor, I have a similar question.
Mhm.
What is the concern?
The fact that we're operating under the zoning enabling act here.
So-
and
Does that require us to have additional
It's
readings?
got specific timing.
So we have to have multiple readings?
I would prefer that you have the multiple reading on this.
Is that a preference or a requirement?
Your ordinance, well, I know this came up in the context of the general ordinance, and, in that case, your charter and your ordinances are a little bit different in that you aren't required to do a second reading on your general ordinances. But in terms of the zoning ordinance, I suppose there would be nothing that would prohibit it, I just don't wanna leave.
I guess
this
I don't
right, yeah.
understand the repercussions of not
A challenge.
taking it.
Say you get somebody that says, I don't like that ordinance, and challenges it and says you didn't pass it properly. I'm not saying it could happen. These are the kind of things you gotta look out for, pitfalls. Matt, am I wrong?
Well, exactly.
That's why
Right.
you do it, just because it's a zoning ordinance and it's prudent to follow, whatever the statute requires, so.
So what is your recommendation, 2 readings or 3?
Yes, 2.
I see, okay. No further questions.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is also a first reading. It is a matter of adopting an ordinance. Planning Commission has also approved this, allowing for metal roofs to be approved with concealed fasteners via the administration rather than going to the Planning Commission. I had everything right?
That is correct, yeah, this was just kind of a small edit that came up in the context of the building department administering some requests for these types of roofs, so it was something that the commission looked into, and this is what they recommended.
Do we have a motion to approve the first reading?
Seconded.
Any public comment? Seeing none, Any comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. City managers report.
So, so DTE's been out working the streets in regards to changing all the LED lights. They're adding the LED lights. They're changing approximately 25 per day. They've been doing it for some time now. They expect to be done between 4 and 6 weeks to have all the new lights, 2,700 aluminum in all of Huntington Woods. Like I said, so it should be done by end of August or early September. Also, we had quite a few applicants for the librarian position. We had a thorough background and also an oral board with 2 librarians on the board, along with our human resource director. And I'm happy to say that the #1 candidate, who is extremely qualified and well-liked, is Shannon Rourke, who's accepted the position. She's obviously our children's librarian. So we're very excited to have her as our new librarian and to be able to be the one to be part of picking the children's librarian now to make sure that the same programs are followed, and so it'll be a really easy transition. The other bonus is she's a resident here of Huntington Woods, but she's, as I said, well qualified, and the board picked her as the #1 candidate. She will replace Deb in another week in August. That's it.
Are there any questions from the commission for the city manager? Okay. Commissioner comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so I think in regards to the prior item on the agenda that was removed for the resolution to remove the ban on conversion therapy, I just want to make it very clear to folks that the commissioners themselves do not place items on the agenda. I, as an individual commissioner, cannot place an item on the agenda. It requires an additional commissioner to support that request. Nor was the agenda item put on there by the city manager. I think there's a misperception out there that Andrew was responsible for placing that on the agenda, and a lot of very negative comments being made about us as a commission, about our city administration, that I think was really unfounded. Did not appreciate receiving an email that said, "Shame on you." I would much rather be home tonight with my queer child watching Heartstopper than being here where I volunteer my time for $0 to serve this community. And so I want folks to understand that what goes on the agenda is not final. It has not been voted on. It's up to us to determine whether or not we agree with the legal counsel of our city attorney. He is charged with protecting us as a city from risk and liability, and so I understand why the item was brought to our attention. I am grateful that it was removed from the agenda. I hope it does not go back on the agenda in the future. It is not something that I would want to vote on as a topic in general, nor would I support the removal of that portion of the ordinance, and would hope that there would be alternatives that would still protect us legally as a city.
Commissioner Rozelle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, to say that my emails, texts, phone calls, beginning on Friday through today, were minimal would be an understatement. I spent my entire weekend responding to residents and social media posts, trying to explain how this got to where it got. I'll tell you, some folks were not nice. And I want to remind everybody, I'm the one that introduced this ordinance in 2019, and it passed unanimously. Okay, then the U.S. Supreme Court weighed in and essentially said that these types of laws and practices are not okay. There's a lot of laws on the books about interracial marriage and all these other things in a lot of states that are still on the books, but they're not enforceable. There's a lot of deed restrictions that are out there still today that are not enforceable. We could have added, I felt like maybe a compiler's note saying it's not enforceable or referencing a court decision. You know, the US Supreme Court case involving Colorado went back and rewrote their statute and basically made it viewpoint neutral, saying any predetermined outcome on a minor is a problem and illegal. You know, so there are other ways we could have approached this than slap a repeal of an ordinance on the consent agenda, where it looks like, you know, frankly, we're a bunch of homophobes that are gonna repeal an ordinance without any discussion from the public or any discussion amongst the commissioners. And I didn't like being put in that position, frankly, at all. We discussed this, I felt like earlier this year, and that this was a done issue. And then I got my agenda packet and surprise, there it was. So, you know, I share my colleagues' opinion. I share the sentiments of the people in the community. You know, I don't like this any more than anybody else. But I don't like the way it was handled either. And I'm not the one that put it on the agenda, but I certainly did my damnedest to get it taken off, I'll tell you that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Olsman.
Okay, so in follow-up to those comments, we did pass that ban on conversion therapy back in 2019. It was unanimous, and I believe Commissioner Elder told me that we were the first community, if not the first, one of the first communities in the state to do that. And so I think our, from a policy perspective, our opinion was clear. The problem has come this year. There have been two cases. There was a United States Supreme Court case called Childs that basically said you can't restrict what somebody says in a therapy session. Like if you have a therapist treating somebody, you have no right to restrict what they tell them. That they found that to be violent. I believe that was Childs too, because it's similar to what we have in Michigan. In Michigan, in 2023, the legislature passed a ban on conversion therapy also, passed a statute. Fine. So last year, there was a challenge by a group called Catholic Charities of Jackson to the statute on the basis of free speech. Again, that you're restricting what somebody may say to somebody in the course of a therapy session. That we don't want, that the decision, that there was a lawsuit saying that that's unconstitutional. Now, the judge who had it, the district court judge in the Western District in Grand Rapids, Jane Beckering, denied their request for an injunction on it, and they appealed it to the Sixth Circuit. Well, in March of this year, in a 2-1 decision, the Sixth Circuit came down with an opinion saying, no, it's a free speech violation, you can't have it. So now what we have is we have an ordinance here that we all support, and a Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, for those of you who don't understand necessarily the structure of the federal courts, the Eastern District of Michigan is the federal court of Detroit. The Eastern District of, the Western District is Grand Rapids, and the Sixth Circuit Court, they're all within the Sixth Circuit. And so what the Sixth Circuit says in this area goes. They're the last arbiter on what the law is in these types of cases, unless it goes to the Supreme Court. So now you have a Sixth Circuit case that says you can't have that. You have a U.S. Supreme Court case that says you can't have that, and we have it. Now, so the first question is, what do we do? Well, we can remove it because it's a nullity. And I mean, the hypothetical question that I posed was, supposing on Woodward in one of the office buildings, there was a therapist who said they specialize in conversion therapy. What could we do about it? You don't have an enforceable ordinance anymore. So the question is, what do we do about it? And my question is, what do we do about it? Do we remove it as repeal it? Do we just put a line down that says it's been overruled, or it's not overruled, it's been declared unconstitutional? Yeah, Joe's right, there's a lot of statutes and there's a lot of things out there, and they all have some sort of, when you look them up, if it's been repealed, it says the statute's been repealed, or this case, this was overruled by whatever precedent. Ms. Hurst said, she's an attorney, she understands exactly that. So the question isn't what we want, the question is, can you have an ordinance on your books that's been declared by the Sixth Circuit and the US Supreme Court to be unconstitutional? So that's more the question. And if it's to express our own personal view, that we want this, we like this, or we believe it's appropriate, fine, but we need to be sure of what we're doing. So the reason, from my perspective, the reason it was not on the agenda tonight is we're not ready to have that discussion. It's a matter that has a lot more behind it, and we need to understand, in my opinion, we need to understand it better. But Matt Zalewski took some heat from some people about this, and he's just doing his job. His job is to bring the city up to date on what we need to know, and his job is to tell us what we need to be careful with. Now, do we disagree a lot of times? Sure, that's fine. But our job is, his job is still to say, well, you may disagree with me, you may think I'm wrong, but guess what? Here you go. You have to decide, how you're gonna handle it. I'm telling you what I think you ought to do. So I prefer that it not be on the agenda tonight. I also think, like I said, I think it, besides surprising a lot of us that it appeared the way it did, that's okay, as long as it was removed, no foul, no harm, no foul. And we'll deal with it in a way that everybody, is clear on what we're doing. But this is not an expression of preference that somebody just decided, oh, we don't like this. That's anything. It's been there for 7 years. And all of a sudden you have 2 cases this year that say no go. So we got to deal with that. But anyway, I appreciate all the effort that everybody made coming in here tonight to talk about this and about the parade rules and things like that. I think it's very good for the city to have these debates, and I appreciate it. Whatever side of the topic you happen to be on, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Eldred.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't know how I can follow that. So first of all, thank you for the people that wrote in, even though some of your words were kind of mean. But I appreciate it, and, looking at the bigger picture, it kind of reaffirms our position as a commission. I too was surprised to see this on the agenda, did not have the heads up on it. The information that I did have was in this memo, which I felt like, it explained the case laws, but it didn't provide me with enough time or understanding of the situation. Didn't fully understand what is the city's actual legal exposure. Who would have standing to bring up a claim like this if they have to show damages? Realistically, are we in a risky situation? And how is this different from the many, many other local ordinances that have been passed that are unenforceable? And we know that higher courts and higher governments, change laws all the time, and it can supersede local ordinances. Is there an actual compelling reason that we need to act to repeal? Those are the questions that, I had as I was reading to it. And yes, I had an emotional reaction to it too. And I'd like to just remind everybody again, Commissioner Joe Roselle led this effort, first in the entire state. And this commission passed the law unanimously. And then other local communities followed. And then the state followed. And it was just really disappointing to me to get some of these emails like, what have we done to make you think that we would want to repeal or want to change our position on this? And to the parents that have shared your stories, every time I hear a story I tear up because this is about protecting our children. So anyway, I digress. I just am very glad that it was removed from the agenda. I do not want to see it in a future agenda. And I mean, sure, go ahead and answer those questions. And, I think it's fine to get more information and understand. But at this time, I don't see any compelling reasons as to why we would want to revisit this. So thank you.
Thank you. You're nicer than I'm gonna be about some of the people that wrote emails and made social media comments, because my character was attacked, and I usually don't say anything about that. I signed up for this job, and that's their right to do that, I suppose. But as you said, this commission unanimously adopted prohibiting conversion therapy in 2019. I personally find it terrible practice, and the reality is that with the court rulings, it is something that is unconstitutional, and therefore we need to do something with it on our ordinances. It was Matt's job to point that out to us. He sent a memo to the city manager in May that was sent on to all of us as a commission with his recommendation that we take it off. I'm open to discussion on this. We can add a tagline if that's going to be okay with the city attorney, if this has been overturned, if that's what's acceptable. But in my opinion, it's not acceptable to leave it as it is on the books, because that's unconstitutional, and I made an oath when I took this office to honor the Constitution of the United States and the state of Michigan. So unfortunately, it is going to come back, and we are going to have this discussion. As bad as it is, it's as much as we don't want to take it off of there, I'm confident that the vast majority of Huntington Woods residents agree with this ordinance. But all that doesn't matter, because it's unconstitutional. But I look forward to having a good discussion on it, and a good solution that everyone can accept. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Meeting adjourned.